Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Lovelace, and for my exploration of inequality, I selected Latinx immigrants. I chose this topic in part because of the maltreatment of this group that I've seen personally in my hometown. My hometown was majority white until I was in high school when we started having an influx of Latinx immigrants who were here for work at the local factories we had. We had two chicken factories, food processing factories, and we had a weed eater factory. The pushback from the community was immediate and severe. It was one of the first times I saw directly just how ugly racism was and that how widespread that it was. It has always stuck with me. So, who is Latinx? Latinx is a gender-neutral, pan-ethnic alternative term for the Hispanic population. Latinx is a relatively new term that is gaining traction due to its more inclusive nature. It is not well known among Hispanics and even fewer use it. I'll be using it throughout the presentation. There are critics of the term who say that it does not follow traditional grammar rules and is hard to pronounce. Just some statistics to help demonstrate the vastness of the population. Latinx immigrants living in the U.S. made up 44% of the nation's 44.7 million immigrants in 2019. 60.5 million people in 2019 self-identified as Hispanic or Latino. 33%, or 19.8 million, were immigrants. There were 25.6 million children in 2019 under age 18 living with families with incomes below 200% of the federal poverty threshold. 8 million, or 31%, were children of immigrants. As you can see, these are not small numbers. As social workers, we advocate for marginalized communities. We provide services for children. We help combat poverty. Alongside the obvious factor of race alone, there are systems at play, such as poverty, lack of resources, and oppression. To learn more about the oppression faced by Latinx immigrant communities, we're going to look through the lens of the five faces of oppression put forth by Young. Oppression is defined as a system that maintains advantage and disadvantage based on social group memberships and operates intentionally and unintentionally on individual, institutional, and cultural levels. Young breaks this down into five levels: exploitation, marginalization, powerlessness, cultural imperialism, and violence. Latinx migrant laborers have faced labor abuse, poor living conditions, and low pay for agricultural and food processing work. Latino migrant laborers continue to face poor working conditions, have the highest job fatality rate, and are paid below minimum wage and risk consequences for speaking out about safety standards. Undocumented Latino migrant laborers feel pressure to go along with these harmful conditions due to fear of deportation and threats to their livelihood because of their legal status. Marginalization. Negative stereotypes, labels, and gross generalizations cast Latinx people as a lower class of being historically. Latinx were labeled as lazy, ignorant, vicious, and dishonest. It is no different today from Twitter to campaign ads. When Mexico sends you its people, they're not sending their best. They're not sending you. They're not sending you. They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems with us. They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime. They're rapists. And some, I assume, are good people. Donald Trump. What can be simpler Or more accurately stated, the Mexican government is forcing their most unwanted people into the United States. They are, in many cases, criminals, drug dealers, rapists, etc. Donald Trump. Powerlessness. U.S. anti immigration policies and xenophobic, hateful political rhetoric causes pervasive fear of speaking up about anything for fear of deportation. In the graph, you can see how the political climate escalates fear and powerlessness. During Trump era policies, deportations increased. I saw this in my hometown as well. Immigrants who had been living and working in the United States for decades were being deported. If you spoke up about your work conditions or made waves in any way in the community, there was legitimate fear that you might be deported and separated from your family. Family that had children born in the United States would lose a parent who was not born in the United States but was an immigrant here legally. Cultural imperialism. More than half, 53% of Latinas and 44% of Latinos say that EP at their company is defined by conforming to traditionally white male standards. 43% of Latinas and 33% of Latinos say they need to compromise their authenticity to adhere to the EP standards at their community. U.S. Latinos feel they can't be themselves at work. This includes Anglicanizing their names, toning down their quote unquote passion, and speaking more white. Of the 51 hate motivated killings reported last year, 22 of the victims died in the El Paso massacre on August 3rd, 2019. Most of the victims were Latinos. Authorities have said the gunman was targeting Hispanics when he drove hundreds of miles to El Paso, Texas, and shot multiple people at Walmart. Reported anti-Hispanic hate crimes, including robberies, assaults, and other crimes, rose to 527 last year, up from 485 in 2018, an 8.7% increase. The El Paso massacre was a terrorist attack committed by a far-right white male. 23 people lost their lives and 23 others were injured. It is being investigated by the FBI as domestic terrorism and a hate crime. The shooter wrote a manifesto with white supremacist tones and anti-immigration themes. It also addressed the far-right conspiracy theory known as the Great Replacement. So, why should we care as social worker and what should we note? There is a large population of Latinx and Latinx immigrants in the US, especially in border states. They are the fastest growing group in the United States. To serve this population, it is important we understand what barriers they face. As social workers, we have the responsibility to advocate for marginalized and oppressed groups. Social work's role and recommendations. Without cultural awareness, social workers contribute to the oppression of the community when working with clients from other cultures. Suggestions for gaining cultural competence include reading books about Latino history and culture, attending festivals, taking coursework, or attending conferences. Actively recruit and hire more bilingual practitioners. Active reflection on our own privileges. Address the top needs of the population, such as poverty, immigration, assistance, and increasing financial literacy so that they are less likely to fall prey to predatory lenders. Here are some references. I have 2 slides of them. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for watching.